Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Mapper Forward, friends, and thanks to our presenting sponsor, the fabulous Baratza, ours and your favorite grinder company. Head to their website, baratza.com, for information on which grinder is the best fit for you. Today on the podcast, we've been speaking recently about some of the challenges that small business owners are having in the coffee industry. So today, what we're going to talk about is if most traditional businesses in the industry are things that are finding it very challenging right now, what kind of business should you be thinking about opening in the coffee industry if you are looking at becoming a small business owner? Now, I want to preface all of this by saying, if you have never owned a business and you are thinking about owning a business, I would invite you to ask why you would like to own your first small business. I am a big believer that small business is going to teach you everything you never wanted to know about yourself, and that's the perfect reason to do it. However, we are in 16 months, 18 months deep into a pandemic. We are heading for a very challenging economic time, and we are experiencing some challenges with regards to our supply chain. So if this is the first time you are opening a business, please ask yourself why you are doing it now, and think about what skills you need to cultivate in order to have a small business before you do this, because I have seen hundreds, if not thousands, of small business owners come with very unrealistic expectations of what it is to own a small business, not just in the coffee industry, but every industry that I've ever had the good fortune of working in or coaching in. And pretty much 100% of the time, I don't think I've actually ever encountered anyone who understood how hard it was going to be. And it's not the work that's hard. It really isn't. That's the part that we're prepared for. It's the parts of you as a human that doing a hard thing like opening a small business uncovers. That is the really hard thing. And that's why I'm always saying to everybody, being a small business owner is going to show you everything you never wanted to see about yourself. If you're prepared to go on that journey, then do it. Now, having said that, if you are a first-time business owner or you have had businesses before and you are looking for the business to open right now in the coffee industry, I would invite you to consider these things. Make sure that it's a business that can operate on limited staff. So you don't want to be constrained by a business that requires labor-intensive product. The reason is we don't know how long this labor shortage is going to last. It may be permanent. And unless you have really high cash reserves, and you're prepared to put the work in as you are starting this business to build a culture that has a value exchange that extends beyond money, you won't adequately attract the right workforce. You may secure people in the short term, but right now there are plenty of jobs around, and people have the luxury of choosing what they want to do. And also, people are willing to experiment. People are making decisions that say, yeah, no, I don't think the coffee industry is for me. I have a unique skill set, but it's transferable to a different industry. So just beware. If you are walking into a business that is highly labor intensive, not just in the short term, but long term as well, as you grow your business, what you'll find is that you may want to bring on more people. Labor is no longer cheap. You can think it's cheap, but the world has changed. Labor is no longer cheap in our industry, and people are more fickle. If you cannot keep them engaged, they will move on. So the positions that you hire for, you will need to make sure that you have a career trajectory for every single employee that keeps them engaged in wanting to work for your business. Now, the next thing I'd like you to consider, what can you automate from the get-go? So if you are opening a business that deals with digital content, that's great. There are a lot of tools out there that you can pay consultants to do, or you can hire people on Fiverr to do, or you can hire people part-time to do. There are also tools on the internet and that you can subscribe to that will allow you to automate a lot of the digital content that you're creating. However, if you're creating physical content, you are limited to the amount, because of the labor shortage, you are limited to the amount of work or product that you can produce based on the amount of machinery that you can get that will automate the work. So if your work is going to be stifled by how much you can scale your business, you may end up in a situation like we are in right now in cafes and roasteries, where it's difficult to find staff. They cannot produce the amount of coffee or beverages or hospitality that they are fully capable of doing, but are disabled from doing because they cannot get staff. If you find yourself in that situation, you will run your business into the ground much sooner than you expect. Now, the next thing to think about, we are entering a very challenging time for commodities in the world. We're already in it. Inflation is about to become a thing. It is already a thing. Supply and demand is weighing heavily on the value chain. So when you're considering this, think of how you will secure your supply chain. I can speak personally to this. I've been tracking the cost of the coffee and the packaging that we would use for Elixir, but here based in Australia, getting ready to launch again. And I've been tracking those costs since I arrived in the country. And I can tell you that is becoming increasingly scary to look at the prices, not just the prices, but also how we would secure that supply chain if we were to launch the business now. So we have made the decision, even though we had the capital set aside to do it, and we had all our ducks in a row to go on this business right away. What I've decided is that we will delay getting things happening here in Australia for 12 months because of the volatility of the supply chain right now in the packaging world and in all commodities. So buying glass bottles is seemingly usually very easy. When I was in the States, we could source them locally from a number of vendors. It's more challenging to do that here in Australia because we have a smaller population and therefore less of a demand on those kinds of product. So I would go to have them imported. Not a big deal. I have two places that I can source these bottles from. I can source them from China and I can source them from Sri Lanka. Not a problem. We can source them. The price is more expensive, but we can price that into the cost of the product. The issue is that shipping costs are increasing exponentially and shipping delay times are so unpredictable that the amount of capital required to secure 12 months worth of stock is prohibitive. Also, what happens after that 12 months? I have friends who have big manufacturing companies that are finding it so difficult to run their businesses right now, whether they're equipment companies, beverage companies, or food product. They are finding it so difficult to get access to a lot of the packaging. Simply the packaging is becoming a prohibitive issue right now because the supply chain is so messed up. So They are the things that I would encourage you to think about very closely right now before you decide what business you want to go into. So if you're thinking about opening your first cafe, think about those 3 things in the structure of how you're going to create your first business. If you're looking at opening a digital business like a podcast or a blog or an e-zine, or I'm sure that I've said that incorrectly, but a digital magazine, or whatever, consider those things. A lot of what's coming and the success of any business that you open right now is going to be determined on how you structure the foundation of that business before you open. And that's how you conspire to your own success. I hope you found this helpful and interesting. If you have, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel or subscribe to the podcast if you're listening to the audio version. And also give us a thumbs up or rate the podcast wherever you're listening to it. Peace, love, and peanut butter, friends. Have an amazing rest of your day.